The 7 things you should be talking about today. Number 7.
Auburn beats down in-state opponent Alabama State, breaking the potential Cinderella's glass slipper with an 83-63 defeat. By the way, Auburn is the number 1 seed overall. Alabama State, they won a play-in game. So it's not much of a surprise that you got a big blowout there. Well, Auburn plays on. ASU coach Tony Madlock celebrated the team's first tournament victory in that play-in game, which is part of the tournament, so that is a big win over St. Francis and the team's potential. The remaining Alabama-based teams in the tournament, they'll play today. Alabama plays at 11:40 from Cleveland against Robus Morris Colonials. Colonials, beat those Colonials. And Troy plays Kentucky at 6:40 this evening from Milwaukee.
Number 6.
The failure of a bill that would have enacted a ban on Delta 8 products in Alabama by Senator Tim Melson, Republican out of Florence, has led to a new push to legalize and tax the product in the state of Alabama. But State Senator Sam Gavan, Republican out of Huntsville, wondered on this program if legalizing more THC products was a good idea. Spoiler alert, it's not. Gavan noted correctly for the first time ever that THC DUIs have surpassed alcohol-based DUIs. The advocates for legalization and regulation could restrict the sale to private package stores and vape shops for those 21 and up, rather than widespread retail at convenience stores as the unregulated market allows right now. So that part's good.
Number 5.
The Alabama Public Library Service Board has finally voted to terminate Director Nancy Pack. Now, why do you know who this person is? And isn't that really just part of the problem here, that you know who this person is? Well, Nancy Pack is the head of this organization, or at least was, who was pushing back on calls to stop putting porn in libraries. Yep. She faced 2 years of controversy. Yep. 2 years of controversies over allegedly favoring the retention of sexually explicit materials, questioning the motives of the people who wanted those materials removed, and even playing a role in multiple controversies around the state involving Kirk Cameron, of all people. The only person that voted against her firing said that the firing was driven by extremists, which again shows that they're not learning anything here.
Number 4.
The Alabama State Senate passed the Community Pharmacy Relief Act, which State Senator Garland Gudger, a Republican out of Coleman, says is a vital measure to stop pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, from undercutting independent pharmacies with unfair reimbursements and hidden fees, ensuring transparency and consumer savings, which could help independent pharmacies stay open. That's really one of the main concerns that a lot of people have about this, and that is what's happened here. Now, I do like that this bill is a 2-year trial run to see what actually happened. So expect some pretty intense coverage on this, especially when it comes time to bring back the debate about extending this. That's important. We'll stay on top of this story. It's not over yet. Still got to get through the House.
Number 3.
He did it. He did it. He actually did it. Well, kind of. I mean, it depends who you're talking to. If you're talking to some people, the Department of Education was gutted, and now Donald Trump supporters are burning down schools around the country. That's how our media is covering it, because I don't know if you know this, they're liars, but just so you know that. But the executive order directing the closure of the Department of Education has been executed. He is fulfilling a campaign pledge to eliminate what he calls a wasteful, ideologically driven agency. The agency cannot be totally eliminated, however, without an unlikely vote from Congress. So the role managing Title I funds and student loans will continue with a much smaller staff. Yes, you still have to pay your student loans, by the way. Trump and Education Secretary Linda McMahon argue that states can better handle education. They note the declining scores and exploding costs since the department was founded.
Number 2.
Mayor Tommy Battle of Huntsville expressed a lack of concern regarding Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and their impact on Alabama. He says that the impact is overstated by the media and that there is an echo chamber in New York and Washington, D.C., which is generating a lot of headlines when it's not really necessary. He ranked his concerns at a 2 out of 10. Now, this did take place on my television show, which airs on a lot of these radio stations over the weekend. But when it comes to the state's federal government footprint, he's a 2 out of 10. That's how concerned he is. He criticized the media's dramatic framing of the situation as apocalyptic. It says the actual circumstances in his city are not accurately reflected.
And today's number 1 thing you should be talking about today.
All right, we all know this. There has been a series of federal court rulings which have very much angered the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself, and Donald Trump supporters. It has been, no question, a absolutely ridiculous way to throttle Donald Trump and his administration. That's what they're trying to do. They are trying to stop his administration from being able to do various things. And all you have to do is look at what the rulings actually are. And I'll run through some of them for you that have caused the most consternation. You have a transgender military ban that was blocked by Judge Anna Reyes. U.S. aid cuts, USAID, which is the more accurate way of putting it, cuts by Judge Theodore Chuang. Mass deportations were blocked by Judge James Boasberg. And even the single deportation of a Georgetown fellow was blocked by Judge, ready for this? Patricia Tolliver Giles. All of these things have stalled the administration's early agenda, fueling outrage, like I said, from the Trump administration. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt ripped these far left judges, calling them radical left-wing judges. Accurate, by the way. The Trump team's plans to escalate these fights to the Supreme Court are probably the only way you're going to be able to deal with this. And I fully support the idea that this needs to be settled by the Supreme Court. You have, for the second Trump administration in a row, 2 out of 2, right? You have had federal judges deciding, yep, I don't like this policy. Nope. I don't like these policies either. Nope. Don't like these policies, and I don't like that policy, so now you have to stop. Basically, making these judges president of the United States. And they've done far more than I've laid out here today. Stephen Miller and Donald Trump himself have suggested impeachment for judges like Boasberg, raising tensions over judicial power versus executive authority. It's interesting that concern only seems to go one way in the media. They're very concerned about Donald Trump encroaching upon the judiciary. They're less concerned about the judiciary encroaching upon the executive, even though over the last couple of years, our friends on the left and in the media suggested that maybe the executive branch under Joe Biden should just ignore the judiciary. Now that that's being said by those on the right, the media doesn't really like that play anymore. I don't like that play at all. It's a bad one. You shouldn't ignore the courts. You should fight the courts. Impeachment, highly unlikely, but you should fight the courts, and you should continue fighting in court, get this thing to the Supreme Court, and get a resolution. That's the correct answer here. But reasonableness is not rewarded in our society. Instead, kind of the freak out is generally rewarded in our society. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And people call me a shock jock and a smear merchant and an outrage peddler. I just call myself Alabama's most trusted journalist for a reason. What's that reason? I don't know. Somebody called me at once. I thought it sounded cool. That was basically it. All right, let's get out of here. We got to take a quick timeout. You can weigh in. Tell me whether or not I am Alabama's most trusted journalist, or you can get your questions in for 10 with him. Whatever you want to talk about, you can do that right here, right now. It is all very, very simple. 205-545-9950. Get in your thoughts. Get in your comments. You can do that right now. Don't forget, we've got State Senator Arthur Orr coming up here in just a little bit. We'll talk with him about some stuff going on in the Alabama legislature that we talked about during the 7 things. And Tori will be with us as well for 10 with him. So like I said, get those questions in right now. You'll be very happy that you did. Let's get to it. It is the fastest hour of radio anywhere on your radio dial.
You're listening to News and Views with Dale Jackson